The alley behind the old riverside market smelled of damp cardboard, spoiled fruit, and rain that had soaked into the concrete hours earlier. Evening shadows stretched long and crooked along the brick walls, swallowing whatever warmth the fading sun had tried to offer. Mara Ellison sat crouched beside a dented metal dumpster, her thin coat wrapped tightly around her shoulders, fingers trembling as she picked through a torn paper bag. Inside were scraps, half a sandwich someone hadn't finished, a bruised apple with teeth marks already taken from one side, a few cold fries stiff with grease. It wasn't much, but it was food, and tonight, that was enough to keep her from sleeping with the sharp, hollow ache clawing at her stomach. She hadn't always lived like this. Once, Mara had known warm kitchens and clean plates. She had known laughter over dinner tables, the sound of forks clinking against ceramic, and the comfort of knowing there would be another meal tomorrow. But that life belonged to another woman, one with a husband, a small apartment filled with light, and a future that hadn't yet cracked apart. Now she ate quietly in alleys. She lifted the apple and took a small bite, careful not to waste any part of it. That was when the laughter started. "Are you serious?" A woman's voice scoffed from behind her. "She's actually eating that." Mara froze. Footsteps echoed closer. 3 figures stood near the mouth of the alley, 2 young men and a woman, all dressed neatly, shopping bags swinging from their wrists. They smelled like soap and money and comfort. The woman wrinkled her nose. "Disgusting," she said. "That's trash." One of the men laughed. "Guess she's used to it." Heat rushed to Mara's face. Her hands tightened around the apple, knuckles whitening. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the wall, to become invisible like she'd learned to do over the past year. But her body betrayed her. Her shoulders shook as shame crept up her spine. "I'm sorry," she whispered, though she didn't know why. "I'll go. Don't touch us." The woman snapped as Mara tried to stand, her legs weak from hunger. "People like you should be grateful you even get scraps. People like you." The words lodged deep, sharp as glass. Mara stumbled past them, clutching the bag to her chest, eyes burning. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. Their laughter followed her anyway, echoing off the brick like a cruel chorus. She didn't stop walking until her lungs ached. By the time she reached the old railway bridge on the edge of town, night had fully settled. The river below moved slowly, reflecting city lights in broken lines of gold and white. This was where Mara slept most nights, curled beneath the bridge on a flattened piece of cardboard, her backpack tucked under her head. She sat down heavily, the bag of food still unopened in her hands. Her tears finally came. She cried silently, shoulders shaking, the humiliation of the alley replaying in her mind, the words, the looks. The way they'd seen her as less than human, as if hunger was a crime, as if poverty erased dignity. She pressed her fist to her mouth, trying to stifle the sobs. "You don't have to eat that alone, you know." The voice was calm. Gentle, close. Mara flinched and looked up. A man stood a few steps away, hands visible, posture relaxed. He was tall, wrapped in a worn brown coat, his hair slightly unkempt, face lined not with hardness but with something softer, experience, maybe. His eyes were kind, observant, not judging. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said quickly. "I just saw what happened back there." Her throat tightened. "I'm fine," she lied. He nodded, accepting the lie without pushing. "The name's Illy." She hesitated. "Mara, that apple looks better than anything I've had today," he said with a faint smile. Despite herself, a small, startled laugh escaped her. "You hungry?" she asked. "Always," he admitted. She opened the bag and offered it to him. He didn't rush, didn't grab. He simply sat down across from her, careful to keep a respectful distance, and shared the food like it was a meal at a proper table. They ate in silence at first, the river murmuring below them. "You didn't deserve that," Illy said quietly after a while. Mara swallowed. "People say things. People can be cruel," he replied, "especially when they've never known what it's like to be empty." She studied his face in the dim light. "How long have you been out here?" He shrugged, long enough to stop counting. "Why don't you leave? I drift," he said simply, "sometimes by choice, sometimes not." She nodded. She understood more than she wanted to admit. Over the following weeks, Mara began to see Illy everywhere. He appeared at soup kitchens just before closing, helping stack chairs. He showed up near the bridge with coffee he'd somehow gotten his hands on. He knew which stores threw away day, old bread, and which alleys were safer at night. He never pried, never asked how she'd ended up here, but little by little, she told him anyway. She told him about her husband, Thomas, about how his kindness had slowly turned into control, then anger, about the night she finally left with nothing but a backpack and a bruised rib she never got checked, about the shelters that were always full, the jobs that never called back, the slow erosion of hope. Illy listened always. One night, rain poured down hard, soaking through her coat, chilling her bones. Mara sat shivering beneath the bridge, teeth chattering. Without a word, Illy draped his own coat over her shoulders. "You'll freeze," she protested. "I won't," he said. "I've learned how not to." She looked at him then, really looked, and saw the quiet loneliness he carried, the way he never stayed in one place too long, the way his eyes softened when he spoke of helping others, but hardened when the conversation turned toward himself. "Why are you so kind?" she asked. He shrugged. "Someone once was for me." The next time Mara saw the trio from the alley, it was during daylight. She stood near the market entrance, holding a sign that read "Looking for work." Her hands shook, not from cold but fear. The woman recognized her immediately. "Well, look who's still here," she sneered. Before Mara could shrink back, Illy stepped beside her. "Is there a problem?" he asked calmly. The woman scoffed. "She's begging." "No," Illy replied, voice steady. "She's surviving." Mara felt his hand slip into hers. The simple contact grounded her, anchored her. "You don't get to shame someone for being hungry," he continued, "not unless you're prepared to carry their pain too." The men shifted uncomfortably. The woman flushed, muttering something before walking away. Mara's chest felt tight. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "Yes," he said gently, "I did." Winter came fast. Snow dusted the city in quiet cruelty, turning nights into icy trials. One evening, Illy led Mara to a small, weathered building on the outskirts of town. "What is this?" she asked. "A place," he said, "for now." Inside was a tiny room, bare but clean, a mattress on the floor, a small heater, a kettle. Mara stared, stunned. "I can't, you can," Illy interrupted softly. "And you will." She turned to him, tears welling. "Why?" He met her gaze. "Because everyone deserves somewhere to rest without fear." She sank onto the mattress, sobbing openly now. Illy knelt in front of her and took her hands, warm and steady. "You're home now," he said. The words shattered something inside her, in the best possible way. Mara didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time she slept without hunger, without shame, without fear, and sometimes that's how healing begins. Not with grand gestures, but with a gentle hand held in the dark, and a voice that finally says, "You belong."